Today I'm talking with Melissa Starr. She's a trailer editor and producer based in New York. She's worked on everything from major studio campaigns to streaming originals. And she's one of those people who really understands both the creative and business sides of trailer making. We talk about her journey into editing, how she balances storytelling with client expectations, and what trends she's seeing in today's fast-moving trailer landscape. So please enjoy our little conversation. We are just going to jump straight into the questions, and I would love to hear your little, so to say, hero journey, or like your way into trailer editing.
For me, it started in college, and right when I was about to graduate, I went to like an alumni event type of a thing and met some other people, and I just happened to meet somebody who worked at a trailer agency called Wheelhouse Creative, which was in New York. They mostly did like really indie docs, indie doc trailers. And the two founders of the company are documentarians themselves. So they kind of would cut trailers to make money and then fund their own feature-length documentaries that they were working on. So it was a really interesting place to start. I didn't know the trailer industry was like a thing until I met them. I think that's the case for a lot of people. They say, I didn't know that was a job, only cutting trailers. But it was really cool, and I was kind of like a wear all the hats type of a person and got to edit on the side while I was there. We did a lot of like A24 featurettes. They did a lot of shooting too, so it was really cool to see both on set and the editorial side of things. After that, I went to another agency in New York called Empire Design. They're based in London, but they had a New York office too. I was there for about 5 years. The pandemic happened, as it did to all of us. And I was laid off for a little while and freelanced, kind of met a lot of different people in the industry until I landed where I am now, which is a place called Pool Party Creative in LA. And I work remotely from New Jersey and kind of on West Coast hours to work with them. And I started there as an editor, and now I'm also a producer, which is kind of giving our other editors their roadmaps of ideas, how they can make their cuts better. And that's been really cool and fun. I've worked on a huge variety of genres, which has been great. I love having the, chance to bounce around different types of things, dramas, comedies, documentaries. I haven't really done too much horror. That's the only thing that I'm not super fan of. I'm a little bit jumpy myself working on a horror movie.
You only work on daylight.
In daylight,
if you're going to do that. Okay, I have to stop you a bit because I would love just to hear a bit more about the transition part, and I feel like I would like to go back in the early days again. Yeah, because, it's so interesting how, I guess you wasn't just put in front of an editing program and then just said, so just go and dig in. Did you have a degree or anything? Or did you just occasionally meet these people? Or
Right. At college, I did study radio, TV, film was what the degree was called. And so I had learned Avid and a little bit of Premiere back then. Premiere wasn't as big, but we did learn all that stuff. And yeah, when I started at Wheelhouse, it was actually an internship. And so I kind of just worked there for a summer for free.
Yeah.
Not like the greatest, way to go in, but it's a foot in the door.
Yeah.
And I think like anybody in this industry would tell you, it's like, you are starting at the bottom basically as an assistant, get them whatever they need, go on little delivery runs. But if you have the right attitude of like, yes, and keep going, you keep getting opportunities. And definitely at Wheelhouse, being at like a tiny place, there's only 5 people total. It was just a place where a lot of different opportunities came up and chances to say like, sure, I'll try that. Like, yeah, I would love to. And, it's like, I guess I always approached all of it as like, here's a new thing. let me learn as much as I can. Even though I didn't know about the trailer industry going in, it was definitely like a summer of growth, interning there and just sort of picking everybody's brains and trying to keep improving on my edit skill that I did have from college. But of course, like what you learn in college, it's like that's the really bare basics.
Yeah.
And then you need to go beyond that once you're actually working on real projects. And I do kind of just get lucky that at the end of my internship, they happened to have a position open for it was really like a PA, like production assistant job, but I was doing a lot of assistant editorial tasks on a specific project. So they hired me for that. And then I kind of just kept getting more projects and stayed there for a while.
That's amazing. I mean, that's probably the most linear story I've heard so far. Like ending an intern and then having a job opportunity.
I will say, just, because it was not to make it sound like it was so easy. While I was doing the internship, I had a job the other 4 days a week at a car dealership.
Yeah.
And I was editing little videos for them, which was like, what am I doing here? So I was very happy when at the end of the internship, another position opened at that agency.
Could you maybe just elaborate a bit on the on both being editor but also be a producer? Like in your world, how does that look?
Sure. Yeah, it is interesting. I think the word producer means like something different for every producer out there. It's one of those like, what do you do though? In my world at an agency where I'm kind of like a creative producer, it's giving feedback to other editors when they have their cuts and also giving like general structure ideas and thoughts on like, I think that this should have this kind of a vibe, this kind of a feel. And coming from an editor's background, like not all producers have an editing background. I feel like I'm trying to give the editors all the pieces that they need to put something beautiful together, right? Like get them all the music choices they need. We have a music supervisor who helps with that too, but making sure that they're covered there, get them all the pedigree stuff that they need for cards, get them all the copy. And then a lot of it too is talking with clients and making sure that the brief is clear, that that's communicated to the editor. And then when notes come in, also shepherding that process. It is really interesting being both an editor and a producer. For a lot of projects, I'm only producing. On some, I'm editing stuff and producing it. Sometimes I am like, I need more eyes on this. I can't just approve my own work.
Yeah.
So I work with a few other producers at our company as well on stuff like that.
Okay, just a quick question, because you mentioned like with the client, could you just create a quick overview on that world? So we have the film or feature or series, whatever it is, production, and in your world, how at some point it goes into marketing, and the company you work at is the marketing, obviously, of the film or series or whatever. Could you elaborate more on that?
Of course, kind of the roadmap of a film. Yeah. So for us, what we're working on is, things like films or series that have been, bought by a distributor. So maybe that's been purchased by Warner Brothers or Disney or Hulu or Freeform or Vice. Those are all like either like Warner Brothers is a film studio, so they're producing and distributing movies. Like Vice is like a TV channel that they produce their own TV shows, but then they also market them. Freeform is like, that's a TV channel, but they often are buying shows that other people have made to distribute on their channel. So it's a variety of types of people we're working with, but often it's like the marketing department at Hulu calls us and says, I need a trailer for a new TV drama we have. And quite often that person at Hulu is calling more than one agency and they're saying, Melissa, you cut one thing, and someone at another agency, you cut another. And so there's quite a lot of competition. So
That was my next question. Yeah, so it's always like a B thing, and the decision there. I'm just very curious on that part. Is that in front of a test audience, or is that just the whoever is in the highest position to make that decision, or what is the?
It totally varies.
Yeah.
Like it usually depends on how big the project is, right?
Yeah, obviously.
So like a really big movie coming out that's like got $100 million budget, they're definitely testing their trailers. They're sometimes sending 5 trailers to testing from 5 different people just to see which one did the best. And of course they take like the data from that and usually Frankenstein a big monster trailer from it. But sometimes on these smaller projects, there's no testing budget really. So it's more up to those marketing executives at a place like Hulu or Disney or even WB. And, you know, there's always like a hierarchy there too. It's like it's got to go through a bunch of rounds of review. So there's not just one person deciding, this is my trailer, I love it. It's got to be approved by all the people. So sometimes we're doing like a lot of rounds of edits because it's going through those rounds of people. So each time you get some different feedback on, I like that, I don't like this, change that shot, we don't like that line. Can this be more that? You know.
But when you're in that process, I guess you are beyond the competition with the others, right?
Sometimes.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the times, at least 2 are moving forward because, you know, if you're in this world of being an executive, it's often easier to watch 2 and decide, I like that one versus just watching 1 and trying to get feedback. It's different on every single project, but definitely there's some where we've, revised a trailer up to version like 20. It's gotten all the way to the end, and then they went with something else. So
you front load basically a lot of work, and there's not that we have to go into specifics, but there are not any or very little a budget for the work being put there, or is that true? Or
I would say so. Like for any editor out there who has finishes, like, if you're looking at their portfolio, you see 10 finished trailers, they've probably cut 2 to 3 times as many things that didn't go to finish. It's like if you've got a 50% winning ratio, that's really high.
Yeah, but I guess it's also from a business perspective, if you have been second for half a year, then you're like, I mean, that's tough, right?
Sure, yeah, that definitely gets tough. Especially to get your thing revised, and then killed at the last minute. That can be tough. But you need kind of a thick skin. And I know some of my coworkers kind of look at it like every edit that we do for the client is helping them get to the final one. And maybe they don't go with our trailer, but everything that we've done for them is informing the direction that they're going. So maybe they see our cut, they love the front. They see another cut, they love the back. And like, if it's from 2 different agencies, they have to make a decision. Like, which one should I go with to tell the second agency, hey, can you put this front on theirs and then kind of mash them together? That's happened to me plenty of times.
Whoa. Yeah, okay. That's tough.
Yeah, it's kind of a brutal industry. It can be hard to keep your head up sometimes, but
I guess sometimes also information flow can lack, or like just communication can lack, that sometimes you don't know whether you're in or out.
Yeah,
and you
absolutely.
end up first seeing it when the campaign is being launched.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Like the client starts ghosting you a little bit. 3 weeks later, you see a different trailer come out and you're like, well, I got my answer, I guess. They went with that one. That's
And where do you think that comes from? Is that more of a, because it's just so fast paced, or is it just because people are just busy as hell, or like what's the...
Definitely a combination.
Yeah.
Listen, we have like clients that are super transparent with us, and they'll tell us, they'll be like, listen, we're going with another cut, but they loved X, Y, and Z about your piece, and we're incorporating those in. Yeah. Or, they'll be very honest with us. And we always appreciate knowing that. And there's no hard feelings. But yeah, it is a really fast-paced industry. Things can change in a second, especially from the bigger companies that are having like big swinging strategy shifts on movies. You do have to pivot at the drop of a hat. Like, let's say you put out, pretend you're a Disney executive, right? You put out a trailer, it doesn't do well. And then you're like, oh no, like we need a trailer 2 that does something completely different to like get this back on track.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how it goes a lot of the times. In terms of like timelines, right? Like even to cut our V1, we only get 2 weeks at most, really. Sometimes only 1 week to really put together a whole piece to present. And it is a little bit like that startup mentality of just like act fast, break things, see what works.
Yeah, but it's a bit funny that if, for example, it's a feature film, they probably have had a couple of years, like from doing pre-production to production to post, and then suddenly. But I guess it's like at that point, there's could be a lot of money at stake as well. So I guess they just want to.
And a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
What does the director like? What does the producer like? What does the studio like? What does marketing like?
Yeah.
And marketing gets into the game pretty late on some movies. They could already have done, the whole film and reshoots and another batch of reshoots before they hand it over to marketing.
Yeah.
So it depends, just to say too that some of our clients, they're also upfront with us that they're like, we only have the budget for 1 trailer cut. So whatever you guys do, like, that's what we're going with.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And so that situation happens a lot too, where it's like, you're the only agency on this, so we need to crack the code. Sometimes that's easier, sometimes that's harder.
Yeah, I guess it could create like a creative barrier or like a pressure.
Von Dutch was iconic for Y2K fashion. Trucker caps, jeans, jackets. That was like our uniform, basically.
They didn't know how to run a business. It was really a facade.
Come, my lady, come.
Everybody on the planet had Von Dutch.
Sugar, baby.
That hat, it was like crack to the streets.
You're awesome. Me go crazy.
I started hanging out with Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee.
Money was rolling in.
North of $1 billion.
Tons of girls in block parties.
Champagne.
Private jet. Paris jumps out of a cake.
The things that you dream about doing, I got to do.
All these cars and homes.
It was such an amazing achievement. The difficulty was one of the co-founders was charged with first-degree murder.
Yeah, starting point, timeline 0.
Yeah.
Blank, where do you go? I always start with selects and watching, the piece. What is it? Learning about it. I like to do research on the project. Sometimes there's nothing out there about it, but at least for a project like Von Dutch, like that's a well-known brand. There's a real story that's being told in that documentary. And that was, I think, a couple episodes, like mini series. I forget how many, if it was like 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah.
And each one's an hour long, just getting like wrapped up in the story and finding the pieces that resonate with me. Like I always sort of look at it from 2 minds, right? Like just me as a person, like would I watch this show? What about it is interesting to me? Immediately on that project, I was taken with the characters. Like they really found a great way to establish like these 3 larger than life personalities that were just fighting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well that's the core of your story, these interpersonal relationships. And I'm also very drawn to the emotion of a story versus some of the like hard facts. And most editors will tell you this, that they like to start with music. And that project was very interesting when we were thinking about music because Von Dutch was a brand that was so big in the early 2000s. We're like, we got to find an early 2000s song for this. Like that has to be the direction we go. But we went a very different direction than where we ended up. Some of our first rounds, I think, I cut my trailer to No Rain by Blind Melon, which is a super different vibe, but it kind of worked. And we had it trailerized so that there was like a big, impactful back end. But getting back to like how I started getting stuff on the timeline, we felt like the project was so cinematic and had so much in there that's not like a traditional documentary structure for a trailer. So at least the way I look at it, like I'm very structure minded when I'm making my trailers. I'm like cold open, logos, intro, dropout, middle, cards. Like I lay all that stuff out on my timeline in the beginning.
Do you put in markers when you go? Sorry, do you put in markers when you see it like for the first time? Do you use that as kind of an intuition, kind of, or do you just?
I don't really use markers, but I definitely have heard from editors that that's their approach. That they just put thousands of markers on the footage. I like to throw stuff in timelines. I'll make like action, dialogue.
Yeah. So you clip stuff out and put it down on your. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that at least that's easier for me. I could definitely see the marker system being useful too, where it's especially if you do a lot of labeling. But yeah, I like to do like cinematic action, dialogue, sometimes like wides, exteriors, some establishing shots. And then this show also had a unique limitation that some footage was off limits. We couldn't use it because it was archival and considered not, it wasn't released for promo use, so you couldn't use it in a trailer.
Oh.
Which, you know, that's something that you see a lot in documentaries, especially now where things are being cut fair use. Anything fair use, can't use it in the trailer. Which is interesting. It's interesting to get a project and have to kind of cut out half of it. Be like, okay, all of that we can't use. But there's some interesting ways around it. There's one shot of Dennis Rodman that we put in the trailer that was only cleared for in-context use, but because we used the exact song that the show used, Butterfly by Crazy Town, we were allowed to use the shot. I found a way around the loophole.
Smart. Yeah.
It can be very tricky to work with, though. I've had to do a lot of projects where it's like doc style, like super restricted. You basically get this Excel sheet of all the restrictions and all the clearances, and you have to like go through and look, be like, is this cleared for use? Does it have any restrictions? Yes, no, like, and then confirm 100 times too. Another documentary I worked on was called Child Star, and it was all about like child actors. At least 70% of that movie you could not use. Rough.
Just grayed out.
Yeah, just like Big X.
Yeah.
No.
Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, going back to Von Dutch and then like putting things on the timeline.
Yeah.
That was also like once the structure's there and like you have your beginning, your middle, and you're like really crescendoing end, finding what goes in there is like the real challenge. So we really did approach it in the way that you would like a cinematic crime drama trailer, like a really hooky opening that is maybe even a little misleading, and then finding ways to set up your characters and then undercut them in an interesting way. We did a lot of like putting people side by side to set up that this story has a lot more to it than you might think. And then in the back end, finding all of those like beautiful cinematic recreation shots, which have a tendency to look cheesy, but I think we tried to find all the ones that felt really like this is a exciting, interesting show that is going to go in a direction that I can't even really predict. Yeah, it was really interesting trying to find all those little pieces that would fit together in the right way.
And in terms of the Butterfly, I forgot the Crazy Town track. How did that end there?
That is a song that actually the creator of the show loved.
Oh.
And he put it in the show as the theme song. And while we were cutting the trailer, we had a different song in there. We had No Rain for a minute. And then I think we even switched to maybe like a library song, like kind of an inexpensive, just like cheap song. But then the creator of the show, the trailer went through all these rounds, got to the creator, and he was like, please, can you put Butterfly on? And at first we kind of thought that they wouldn't be able to afford Butterfly because it's not that expensive of a song, but it's also not that cheap. But we put it on and everybody loved it. And that's how it ended up there. But we did have it. We sent it to a trailerization house called Heavy Duty, and they did all these extra layers to really make it epic and go to that dark true crime place. The trailer itself has this structure of like happy, fun party in the front. Like you are transported back to early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're at a party with Paris Hilton. You're all wearing your Von Dutch hats. And then it does a sharp turn and it starts getting really dark and then even darker. So it's got kind of like an up and down structure. And that was always something that the client wanted from the very beginning. They were like, I think it's got to go really positive and then just tank from there in terms of darkness.
Yeah, it definitely gets that. I'm just curious, like, so what's the back and forth when you, so I guess when you reach out to, what's it called? Heavy
Duty for this one.
Heavy
yeah.
Duty. They were like music editors or composers?
They're composers, yeah. And so we initially sent them No Rain from Blind Melon.
Oh, yeah.
And they just like did something with that kind of did that up and down structure. And they added all this instrumentation. And I think they added like violins, drums, synths, maybe even some piano in there. I can't remember exactly. We might have taken the piano out by the end. But then when we were through the trailer process and they wanted to switch to Butterfly, we were like, listen, I know that you did this other song first, but do you think that you could take some of that stuff you did and apply it to Butterfly instead? And they were like, yeah, absolutely. So not that they took the exact same stuff they composed, but they took that same concept and idea and did the same thing with Butterfly to give it that same kind of structure of that up and down. And I think because we had the trailer done already, it is interesting to do this like back and forth and switch the music halfway through. Like this very common on trailers to have to change your music. But we were able to give them the structure of the trailer and they could see like, this is where a dropout has to come. And they built that in for us too. And you can make this big crescendoing section before another big dropout and then come back to the song.
And what is it exactly that you hand over? Is it at like a timesheet, or is it more of a around here and around here and around here? I would like to have this and this and this. Or how precise is it?
At that point, because we were a little bit further along in the process, I think that I sent them my cut trailer with only dialogue and sound effects. And then I think they used that to compose too, which is
so they get
an interesting
visuals.
process. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, there's still some tweaking that happens in the edit after that. There's always tweaking in the edit all the way till the last moment. So I may have had to go in, and they provided me with all their stems of like everything that they layered. So it's like I might have had to extend something slightly for the end cards or something like that. But they're, the bulk of what they did was just composed to picture, which was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it works really well. I feel like you stay in the track, but you still get the emotional, more of a dark thing, especially in like, 2/3 in or something, where you get this whole, what is that called? Like the whole, the situation, and then it adds on with some, I can't remember, there was something, there's a twist, right, in it, whether who owns it or something. There's something in it,
like
right?
Who was the murderer?
Yeah, exactly. There's like a.
It's like we know there's a dead body. We know there's someone in jail, but who?
Yeah.
Who is it? Yeah.
And we still stays in this, and then suddenly the happy part, it just feels more. How do you say that in English? Like it just feels more weird, like because you just come out of the dark and then goes into this again. So yeah, I feel like it's really well done.
Thank you. And I was happy to keep some of the lyrics from the song. I remember that kind of being like, as we were going through the process, it's like you got to like hold on to a couple lyrics in the back end so that you remember that it's still the butterfly song you hear, because it really does get so deconstructed. It's almost a totally different song by the end of it. But you have to keep some of those little pieces to show we're taking this one thing and turning it into something completely different.
Do you feel there's anything you want to add?
That project was really fun to go through my action selects and going into like the back end montage. I described it to someone once, like another editor. I was like, I sorted everything into actions with like pre-movement and actions with post-movement. And then I just found like that section where they would line up to do some cool match cuts. Like one character is a boxer, so a pre-movement is he's pulling his arm back and getting ready to strike a boxing thing. And then a cool post-movement was someone falling through a window. And so we matched those.
Nice.
And I'm like, it's a great match cut matching the movement follow through.
50 guns on each of our heads.
I was scared for our lives.
This is first-degree murder.
Is this where it ends?
Is it always like this where you have like an external delivering something, or do you ever sit with stuff on your own and put in a swoosh or put in a something like because it sounds like this was like a creative sort of say a dream process where you have like people could edit on the fly, but do you also do it by yourself or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's like for this situation we had a trailerization done, so they do a lot of the heavy lifting for you, but when you're looking at the timeline, it's still like the song is there, and then there's all the sound effects we're adding on top of it to emphasize different points, right? A big dropout, a big hit. I always put whooshes on cards when they're hitting so that you're feeling them coming in. But then, on other projects, we get maybe like just like a regular library song, maybe from a trailer library, right? And we're breaking it down ourselves. And if there's stems, we might be doing our own kind of remix of it. Or, it's not really a trailerization when it's us because we're not composing original music. I'm no musician, but I can cut something up and make it work to what I'm editing. And that, that is a really big skill that any trailer editor absolutely needs to be able to make the music work with what you're doing. Many people start with it. They say, let me cut to the music. But if you can cut the music to your picture, you'll be able to do a lot more with your storytelling. It's not easy, but very crucial.
Makes sense. Let's jump to something else. What do you currently see in the landscape? Like, what kind of trends? I mean, obviously the trailerization or the like use of an original, whether it's a full track or just the lead vocal, but is that still growing, or what
it's
do you see?
It's interesting. I see a lot more, just comments from people saying that they're sick of that trend. They're like, ugh, I'm over 90s songs being turned into dark. Sometimes they're really talking about like the dark piano covers. I'm sure you've heard those plenty where it's like, all around me, piano ding, are familiar. I've seen that on 3 trailers already. So I would kind of agree that maybe that trend is going downward a bit, using an old pop song and making it something different. I still like it, especially for projects where it makes sense. We were talking about a totally different project, Vacation Friends, where we used a 70s song on a trailer, but the irony of it being like an earnest love song against a raunchy comedy made it work.
Put that bottle on your head. Babe, he's not serious. We've been drinking and... Count it!
You hit the bottle this time!
What the fuck? jackpot. The devil stick, most potent magic mushroom on earth. I ate it. Why?
And made it funnier. And like, in that case, we also trailerized it, but it was a lot closer to the original song with like almost nothing done to it. That I thought that it worked nicely. I think that that's still like a very valid route to take. I'm seeing a lot of like just fully custom songs written just for a trailer. It's not like sometimes it doesn't have lyrics, but it's just a original composition, and it's just been built out of maybe a few little things from the movie itself, and that's always cool.
Is that related to specific genres or?
Maybe like, what's a good example of a recent one? Maybe it's like sometimes I'm watching stuff too and I'm like, oh, how'd they do that music? And I don't know all the intricacies, right? Like maybe they got a composer, maybe it's an already existing song, or maybe it was something custom written for that specifically. But it's always really interesting to see something that feels like it was done just for the trailer. I really liked this one trailer they did for Y2K, which was like built out of little pieces from the movie into a song.
Oh.
And I would love to know how they did it, really. Like if it was just the editor made a song out of samples from the movie, or if they sent samples to a composer and they kind of put it all together, and then the editor matched up the video pieces.
I have to see that. Yeah, okay.
I'll send you a link to it. Yeah, like half of it is built around like Bill Clinton's internet speech.
Yeah.
It's just like a wild, like, that's out of left field. I love it. It's really weird.
Breakdown. Y2K.
They made a video and everything. That's crazy.
It is interesting seeing the trends in music kind of come and go. And it used to be that there was sort of like a taboo in reusing a song, like a big pop song or like a known song. And that seems to be entirely gone because there's just so much content out there. Yeah. Nobody can keep up with all of it anymore. It's not like, they used that on the campaign for such and such 5 years ago. We can't use it again. It's like, no, just use whatever you want.
Yeah.
Definitely the budgets are shrinking. So there's not like $1 million to get a Beatles song.
No.
I mean, was there ever? The Beatles are impossible to license. But yeah, it's interesting seeing like what can you do with just, our libraries that are in our blanket deal.
Yeah.
And there's only like 12 good songs. No, that's mean. There's more than 12.
Again, if we talk about like trends, it's more of a, like we spoke about earlier, there's no rule to the, like, it's whatever works. And I guess it's, when I think about it, I guess the idea of a trailer is to catch attention, and you just mentioned it in a world of floating with content. I guess like it's all about attention, right? So whatever drags you in, and I get also why you mentioned like the whole customization. I guess that the idea of doing that is because you want to have people thinking, oh, that's that track from back in the early 2000s, like, oh yeah, that's, to catch like both on an auditive and like a visual kind of level. So because of all these different formats, and whether you cut in a widescreen or in a mobile phone, or I guess you have all that as well right now, is that growing, or do you do multiple kind of outputs or formats? Or
yeah, that's a great question. The digital world is exploding. It's really fascinating to see how much a movie will really, like, they'll have a trailer that goes in theaters. That's their theatrical trailer. That's still in its format. Yeah. But then it lands on social too, and it's resized, and a lot of information is lost in that image that maybe when you chose it in widescreen, it looked great, but tiny looks
Yeah.
just totally different or terrible. And we do cut stuff custom for social, just thinking about how will this look 9:16? Is the first shot going to be engaging? Always start with a face. Apparently people love to see a face. It's one of those things where I have to tell editors, like, you're cutting for social. I don't want to say a single establishing shot. Don't show me a shot of a city. No. It's an instant swipe if you're watching it on,
What about the
TikTok.
audio on that part? Because I guess sometimes I watch, like, because I have a background in being a musician, and sometimes I see like bass players, and if you do that on a phone, it's like you can't basically hear what he's playing if he hasn't been aware of that. And I guess because of the limitations of if you're not having in-ears and if you're just swiping through like on your phone, is that also something you think about to redo audio parts?
Yeah, absolutely. It has to get mixed multiple times, and yet it does get mixed custom for web content. It is interesting to see, like, I know a lot of old school trailer editors who are like, yeah, if you're putting a whoosh, you have to put a low boom under it too, so that people feel it in theaters.
Yeah.
That low boom, you're never going to hear on a phone. It's like, it's just gone. And it's something I do when I'm reviewing cuts too. I'll watch it on multiple speakers. I'll watch it on, with my headphones, but then I'll go and watch it on my phone too. And you hear something really totally different, or you realize that a certain part, I can't hear the dialogue in this section on my phone, so let's boost it a little there.
Makes sense.
It's really a huge part of everything that we're doing. And so much of our job too is like doing digital pitches and trying to come up with trends that are on digital right now that, if you're watching on Instagram or TikTok, that's going to fit in with the other content that's there, and it's not going to look like an ad for a movie.
No.
Because nobody wants to see an ad for a movie, unfortunately.
No. It's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If you were about to start over today as an aspiring trailer editor and not being lucky to have an internship and not having a job position right after that, I mean, what would your
my
go-to
advice?
be? Yeah.
Something that I did after I was laid off during the pandemic was I went on LinkedIn. I found other editors that I admired their work, and listen, I did just cold message them. I was like, "Hi, I am a fan of your work. I really love," and I would point out something specific so that they knew that I actually watched their work. I loved your trailer for X, and the back end is just beautiful. If you have any time, I would love to chat with you. And I did something, similar to what we're doing here, just chat about them and their process. And, not every single person that I emailed wrote me back, but a few did. And I got to just connect with them and, really just see what they were doing. And in a lot of cases, they, not that they got me a job, but one of them recommended me to an editors group for actually female editors called Soapbox Women. Mm-hmm. That I was like, oh, I've never heard of this. It was for just any women in the industry who wanted to connect. Mm-hmm. And, I would recommend that to any women in the industry today, too. It's a great resource for people to just connect. And they had a few events in LA, but they also did some Zoom events because it was the pandemic. And I did get a freelance job through meeting one of them. A lot of it is being in the right place at the right time, which can be hard to know what that right place is. But I do think that reaching out to other people in the community or even just companies that are doing what you want to be doing is a good place to start.
I think I'm going to have you on a second episode as well, because I have so much more I wanted to dig into. But for now, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining the conversation today.
Of course. Thank you for
having me.
I really
enjoyed chatting with you.
Thank you so much. This
right.
was really fun. Thank you.
Take care.